It's transfer deadline day here in season 3 of the realistic takeover rebuild with Everton, and we have some important business to attend to. We've had a busy transfer window so far. Amadou Onana left the club after pre-negotiating a deal with Arsenal during last season, and Jarrad Branthwaite is now on his way out to Chelsea. But Graham Potter has been active using the money from those two deals as well as the additional prize money from making the Europa League to add some depth to his squad. We've brought in Anton Stack for 23 million from Hoffenheim. Scott McTominay has also arrived to bolster the midfield for just 15 million. Gerard Deulofeu provides some depth up front behind Matheus Cunha. He arrived for 14 million. We were obligated to follow through on our option with Villarreal, so Bertrand Traore arrives on a permanent deal, and Bailey Peacock-Farrell backs up Jordan Pickford. He arrived from Burnley for just 2 million. And the scouts have also been busy searching for a right back and a centre back to replace Branthwaite and to add a bit more depth behind Nathan Patterson. But of course, the Global Transfer Network scouts aren't the only source of information that Graham Potter has access to. You guys have, of course, been making your suggestions in the comments below, and it is a suggestion from the comments that Graham Potter is going to go with the 6'9" beast, absolutely towering over Graham Potter and the assistant manager, who seems, strangely enough, to be employed by every Premier League club. Isak Toure, a 22-year-old, 6'9", I believe, 216-pound centre-back, arrives from Lorient, and Graham Potter barely comes up to his shoulder. He's going to be an absolute monster at the back, alongside the likes of Joachim Andersen, James Tarkowski, Arnel Ahmedhodzic, and he does arrive for 14.25 million. He's a 76 overall Toure. He is left-footed, which is something that was important for Graham Potter as well, as he is going to slot into that left-hand side to replace the also left-footed Jarrad Branthwaite. He's decently mobile for such a big man, although not overwhelmingly so. He's got 75 speed, only 64 acceleration, but he does have 84 jumping, 92 strength. He's got a little way to go in terms of his defensive awareness, only at a 77. Stand tackle is only a 74. Short pass is a 70, which isn't terrible for a 22-year-old. And he does have a couple of decent play styles as well, so he can look to step into the first team at some point. He's going to have to be competing with James Tarkowski and Ben Godfrey initially, but he's certainly going to be a big part of the Everton future. And I have decided to stick with Nathan Patterson at right back. I was caught in two minds about whether we should try and get a starter ahead of Nathan Patterson, but I think he's earned his place. He was our most improved player in Season 1, had a bit of a step back in Season 2, but was certainly still consistent and solid. And that's why the final signing of the summer here for Graham Potter is going to be Festi Ebosele. He's a young 23-year-old right wing back. Not as good as Nathan Patterson at the moment, but he's going to be a solid backup, and he's going to be able to pair with Nathan Patterson going forward. Nathan Patterson as the starter, Ebosele as his backup. He's far more pacey than Nathan Patterson and likely will be better going forward, but probably won't offer us quite as much defensive solidity as Patterson is currently able to offer. So Ebosele arrives for 6.5 million from Udinese. He's on a 4-year deal and he accepts just a rotation role. Ebosele is a 75 overall. He does have right midfield as one of his secondary positions, so when we drop to a flat midfield 4, he could potentially press up to that more advanced position. 5'11", 165 at 23 years old, incredible pace, 94 acceleration, 89 sprint speed, excellent stamina as well, which is really important for our right wing back. 79 dribbling is excellent for a defender, and 75 ball control. He's got good short passing. Like we said, he's got a long way to go defensively. 63 slide tackle and 64 stand tackle. But with those two new additions, I think that just about does round out our business for the summer transfer window. And pending any offers for high-profile players of our own, I think that will wrap up things here on deadline day. We have had a handful of offers for the likes of Maxim de Kuyper, for James Garner, for James Tarkowski, but they've just been from Nottingham Forest, Brentford, AFC Bournemouth. We're comfortably a bigger club than these teams, and we can comfortably reject those. We also had an offer for Jordan Pickford, but again, Wolves are a much smaller club. They are back in the Premier League, but they were down in the Championship last season, so we can comfortably reject that one as well. And as transfer deadline day winds to a close, let's just have a look around the leagues and see some of the high-profile transfers that have taken place. Militao Easily the most high profile, almost 150 million Spurs paid for him. Kirkchu, another fairly high profile one, joining Juventus for almost 90 million. And Lisandro Martinez is going to be the Militao replacement at Madrid, but they make a, 50-60 million pound profit and get a decent enough player to replace Militao. Victor Boniface joins Atletico Madrid for 78 million. Kolo Muani is going to be the new striker for Manchester United, so Dominic Calvert-Lewin potentially out there. Joshua Kimmich is a new addition in midfield for Liverpool. They continue to add central defensive midfielders to their squad. Hakimi also leaves Real Madrid, this time for Newcastle for 72 million. This time replaced by Gvardiol from Manchester City. They used that money to bring in Ruben Neves from Al Hilal. They also bring in Vicario from Spurs. Alexis McAllister joins Olympique Marseille, strangely enough, for 62 million. So lots and lots of movement among the big clubs this season. Kamara also joining Manchester City. They've been incredibly active in the transfer market. Aaron Ramsdale would have been a goalkeeper I would have liked to bring in if we were to replace Jordan Pickford permanently. But 51 million for a goalkeeper we simply could not afford. Aaron Ramsdale, I think, an incredibly underrated keeper these days, though. And Moise Kean also joins Manchester City. He was a suggestion for a new striker to replace Beto when he left. He joins Manchester City instead, and Jared Branthwaite is way down the list. A 45 million transfer is this far down the list. But that will close the books on another transfer window, and we will advance into September to continue our Premier League season against West Ham. And just as we enter September, we get several emails all in a row telling us that our matches have been rescheduled, and I can only think of one reason that might be, and it's because the Europa League groups have been finalized and the fixtures have been released. So we are in Group D in the group stage of the Europa League here, along with Augsburg, Copenhagen, and Apoel FC, who is a team that I've never heard of. Group A consists of Latium, Lens, Hearts, and AGF, another team I'm not aware of. Chelsea made Europa League, along with Sporting Lisbon, Helsinki, Hajduk Split, Villarreal, Celtic, Young Boys, and Rakov make up Group C. Union Berlin, Union, I don't remember what the S and the G stand for. Shakhtar Donetsk, and another team I'm unfamiliar with in Group E. Group F is Milan, Porto, a couple of teams that I can't pronounce, much less that I'm not aware of. Newcastle ended up making the Europa League as well. I thought they might have squeaked into the Champions League, but they share a group with Feyenoord, Malmo, and Shamrock Rovers. And then Real Sociedad, Lille, Sturm Graz, and Utrecht round out Group H. So our featured game of today's episode will, of course, be our first ever European game of the series, and it is going to be at Goodison Park against Augsburg. But for now, we have a Premier League game to try and win. Ben Godfrey gets the nod in that left centre-back position as we take on West Ham. He's accompanied by Joachim Andersen and Arnel Ahmedhodzic. And other than that, it's pretty much the strongest 11 that Graham Potter has available to him. Ferguson and Stack in midfield, Patterson and Takaipa the wing-backs, Diao, Nelson and Cunha the front three. Jordan Pickford, of course, in goal. We got off to a really positive start in this one, creating some really good opportunities early. This one for Matheus Cunha was headed just wide, but it was a pinpoint cross from Maxim Takaipa. It was good contact from Matheus Cunha, and if anything, he just got a bit too much contact on it. And shortly after, Assane Diao managed to slip Lewis Ferguson in behind. Lewis Ferguson hit the shot, unfortunately, straight at the goalkeeper, though, and he made the first of what would be many saves. Assane Diao would find an opportunity of his own shortly after, a half turn on the edge of the box and a shot with the right foot. But it was a dive away to his left-hand side from the goalkeeper this time to parry it away. And we absolutely peppered the West Ham goal with shots, this time from Lewis Ferguson. But again, the goalkeeper was equal to it. He made a number of saves throughout the course of the game. But unfortunately, I think we made his afternoon a little easier than we would have liked. He had one or two decent saves throughout, but most of our attempts were pretty much straight at him. We had plenty of corners in the game too, and although we've got another good target in the box now in the form of Anton Stack, he couldn't quite turn his header on target and ended up putting it over the bar, not even forcing the goalkeeper into a save this time. And it was much the same after the break. Maxim Takaipa again putting a cross right on the money, but again we head the ball straight at the West Ham goalkeeper. Scott McTominay this time, the guilty culprit. Jordan Pickford made a handful of decent saves of his own as West Ham did have their chances. I would say we pretty much dominated the game, but West Ham did have a handful of opportunities to take the lead. Jordan Pickford equal to this one. And after a West Ham corner of their own, Jordan Pickford again was forced to parry away this shot from the edge of the box. But of course, if you do fail to score, then you just open the door to a goal at the other end, and we couldn't rely on Jordan Pickford to win the game for us. But it was Mehdi Taremi with a shot from the edge of the box who did manage to win the game for West Ham, because although we did go on to dominate the game with 19 shots and 11 corners, West Ham were the only one to put the ball in the back of the net. So a frustrating way to lose, to say the least, but you know you're in a good place sliders wise when you lose a game 1-0 that you've dominated and you enjoy playing the game anyway. Unfortunately, I think we're going to enjoy this game far less, though. We are hosting Manchester City at Goodison Park. There are 2 unbeaten teams in the Premier League at the moment. Manchester City aren't one of them, but they have won 3 out of their 4 opening games. Manchester City are going with Erling Haaland up front, so we have selected our side accordingly, as Graham Potter has brought James Justin and James Tarkowski back into the back 5 today. Joachim Andersen moves out to that left centre-back position. Scott McTominay gets the nod alongside Anton Stack today to provide a bit more defensive rigidity in midfield, and Gerard Deulofeu starts up front alongside Diao and Nelson. And this game didn't start quite so positively. Jordan Pickford called into action early to parry away this shot from the edge of the box, and it was only 20 minutes into the game when Man City did take the lead. Phil Foden not closed down quickly enough by James Tarkowski, and he let fly from just beyond the 18-yard line, tucked it right into the top corner. Man City only had the lead for 10 minutes though. Scott McTominay slipped the ball through for Gerard Deulofeu, who had made a perfectly timed run. I was anticipating the linesman's flag going up, but it stayed down the whole time, and Gerard Deulofeu with a finish almost as clinical as Phil Foden's, he levelled the scoring. This one was a game that Man City dominated though, and Erling Haaland did cause a nuisance for himself, this time setting up an attempt at goal rather than taking the shot on himself. Jordan Pickford with a smart save away to his left-hand side. But just before the break, Man City did have their lead again. It was James McAtee this time into the penalty area. Left-footed strike across goal. And this one again was tucked just inside the far post. Another really good finish, this time from the midfielder. Gerard Deulofeu had an excellent game, and he came closest to leveling the scoring again, this time forcing a really good save out of Ortega as he cut inside onto his right foot. And Ortega was called into action again from the resulting corner. Reece Nelson putting the ball onto Gerard Deulofeu's head. He turned the header towards goal, but again it was parried away smartly by Ortega. And although we tried our best to get back into the game, Phil Foden did secure it for Manchester City late on with his second goal of the game. This time he was a bit more closely marked by Joachim Andersen, but not quite tightly enough, and he did get a right-footed shot off into the bottom corner to make it 3-1. So 2 straight losses to start the episode, but we did actually play reasonably well against Manchester City. We were in the game for long periods, and although they were the better side and did deserve the win, we can certainly take positives from the game. The same goes for West Ham. Disappointed to lose 1-0 away from home, but we were the better side in that one. If we continue to play this well, results will start to come our way. Which does bring us to our featured game of the episode, the first of what we hope to be many European nights at Goodison Park. We have a relatively easy group, and I think Augsburg are probably going to present the toughest opposition. So if we can get off to a good start in the group stage with a win here, I think that will set us up early on in very good stead to progress through to the knockout stages. There aren't too many players in the Augsburg starting 11 that I recognise. They're going to line up in a 4-4-2 diamond, and I think the Tete at right back must be the same Tete that played for Fulham. Martel I feel like I recognise from the Bundesliga potentially. Arnie Meyer plays in midfield as well, and I feel like I recognise Alcaraz up front. Potentially he played in the MLS for a while, but I could certainly be mistaken. As for Graham Potter's 11, he is going to continue with the 3-4-3 formation for this one. Jordan Pickford will start in goal. Maxim de Kuyper and Nathan Patterson will be the wing-backs as usual, but it is going to be Isaac Toure who gets his first start in an Everton shirt alongside Ahmed Hodzic and Ben Godfrey at the back. James Garner comes into midfield for this one alongside Lewis Ferguson, and it's that strongest front three of Reece Nelson, Hassan Diao and Matheus Cunha up front. So without further ado, let's head over to Goodison. time for our first ever European clash. I wasn't certain we'd make Europe this season. We did give it a good go. Finished in 6th place in the Premier League in the end. And it seemed like that wasn't going to be enough. But Manchester City did win the Europa League as well as finishing 2nd in the Premier League. And we could have a good opportunity early here to take the lead as Lewis Ferguson takes the ball down on his chest. Couldn't quite get the shot away though. So that did open up an additional spot in Europe. And we did end up taking that spot. Newcastle and Chelsea each join us in the Europa League. Chelsea, I think it must have opened up 2 additional spots, thinking about it, in the Premier League, since Chelsea finished just below us in 7th. And they join us in the Europa League this year. So several Premier League teams playing European football. I'm going to look to get off to the best possible start here at home against Augsburg. It's a fairly easy group. Augsburg, Copenhagen, and a team that I didn't know existed until I saw it. Bad challenge. Until I saw them on the fixtures list and almost squeezed through. Nice run in behind by Matheus Cunha. Maxim de Kuyper looking for him but couldn't quite find him. I'll be interested to see if the ref comes back and gives a booking to the Augsburg player. We have moved the referee strictness back to default because referees were handing out just far too many red cards. That is something I go over in the most recent slider video. Version 5 is on the channel right now. If you haven't already seen it, check it out. Sliders are back in a good place once more after title update 14. And the game is playing really nicely. Really enjoyable games. We've lost both games in the episode so far, but I've enjoyed playing both games. Which is saying something, considering that just maybe a week or so ago, I wasn't enjoying games that I was winning, much less losing. But we're looking to win our first game of the episode here as Maxim de Kuyper sets Reiss Nelson away on the left-hand side. He cuts inside onto his right foot. Strikes towards goal, but it's blocked by Augsburg. Matheus Cunha manages to steal the ball back. But I think the referee's given a free kick and it's offside. Fair enough. I was a little confused there because I didn't see a foul of any kind. But it is offside. Reiss Nelson once more. Maxim de Kuyper outside and Reiss Nelson just holds on to it and cuts inside instead. Looks for Matheus Cunha, who he finds. And there's Lewis Ferguson in a good attacking position once more. But again, we can't find him. I'm excited to see Isak Touré at the back for us today. He looks absolutely monstrous. 6'9", 216 pounds. You do not see players over 200 pounds very often in high-level football. 6'9", 216 is like prototypical, like small forward size, power forward size in basketball. That kind of swing forward who could play the 3 or the 4. There's Cunha, get in the box, man. Lewis Ferguson's in the box. Hassan Diao is there too. James Garner can't win the header. And Augsburg come away. Don't really know what to expect in terms of an Augsburg threat. Only a handful of players in the side that I either know or even vaguely recognise. Alcaraz being one of them. I'm not sure if I am thinking of the former MLS player. Couldn't even tell you which team he played for though. I'm not massively, as I'm interested to see what the referee shows here. I wouldn't mind a red card for the Augsburg player at all. And it is going to be red. Eric Martel, another player I think maybe I recognise from the Bundesliga, is going to be sent off in the first half here. And that's entirely fair enough. Augsburg immediately going to make a substitution. I believe that's one of their strikers is going to come off. And Reece Oxford, he's been suggested as a potential signing throughout the series. And he's been on my shortlist the entire time. We've just ended up going a different direction each transfer window. Oxford, I think, would have been probably a little too good for us, to be honest, at the moment. We've gone with Issa Kabore as a younger option looking more towards the future. And we will play this Crystal Palace game as well, coming up on Sunday in the Premier League. So we'll round out September with 4 games in this episode. As Augsburg get the kick away, and there's Kabore. I'm going to call him the wrong name because all I can think of... Isak Toure. Isak Toure is his name. All I can think of is Issa Kabore, the Manchester City right back. Every time I think about Isak Toure, I just want to say Issa Kabore. So I'm going to be making that mistake numerous times, like with Jared Beto. Lewis Ferguson in the box. Can't win the header. I know Ahmed Hodzic can. Maxim Kuiper once more. And Nathan Patterson in plenty of space on this right-hand side. Finds Cunha, who slips it through to Ferguson. Shoots across goal, and what a finish that is, Lewis Ferguson. And we take the lead 23 minutes into the game. At home against Augsburg in the Europa League. And our Premier League campaign hasn't got off to a great start. But our European campaign certainly has. It's early days yet in the game, much less the competition. But it's a really, really good finish from Lewis Ferguson across the Augsburg goalkeeper. Really nicely worked into Lewis Ferguson initially as well. And all we need to do now is, at the very least, hold on to this lead against the 10-man side at home. The 10-man side are away from home, which really should be a perfectly achievable task, especially when you have to say we are the better side. Nathan Patterson. Nathan Patterson, also a player I considered not replacing exactly, but I considered introducing far more competition into the side for Nathan Patterson's right wing back position, as Reiss Nelson is caught offside. I was tempted to bring in a player who would start ahead of Patterson, but I think we made the right decision just going with a clear backup. We could have brought in somebody who was a similar overall and who would compete with Patterson directly, who would be sort of the 1A and 1B, and whoever is in the best form would start. But I think best to show our faith in Nathan Patterson. I think he's deserved that from us. A young player. He won Most Improved Player in Season 1. Had a decent enough Season 2. But I think if he continues to play, he can continue to develop for us on that right-hand side. And we just brought in somebody who's a clear backup, but somebody who brings a little something different from Nathan Patterson as well. Patterson not the quickest, and he's solid defensively, not quite so dynamic going forward, as Maxim Kuiper gets that all wrong, looking for Reiss Nelson in behind. So the right back we've added is pretty much the polar, not the polar opposite of Patterson maybe, but he has a complementary skill set, let's put it that way. Far quicker, he is absolutely rapid. Brought him on off the bench in the West Ham game, and he just felt so quick. Reiss Nelson, can he beat his man? Yes he can, gets a shot away, but it's straight at the goalkeeper. Easy save for the Augsburg number 1. And just over half an hour gone. We look the dominant side. Not sure Augsburg have really possessed the ball in our half as yet. And I'm not sure they would have if they maintained 11 players on the field. But with only 10, it's obviously going to be even harder for them to get into this game. Oh, Maxim Kuiper beats 1 or 2, but can't beat the final Augsburg player. And this is where Toure might be a little out of his depth, running back towards his own goal. And they do manage, Augsburg, to create an opportunity. But Jordan Pickford is equal to it with a fantastic save. I think that's where it's going to be a little dangerous playing... I almost called him Kabore. I told you I was going to do it. It's going to be a little dangerous playing Toure on the left-hand side of that defensive 3. Because he's not that mobile. He is surprisingly mobile for somebody who is 6 foot 216. but he's nowhere near as mobile as Jared Branthwaite, and certainly not as mobile as Arnel Ahmedhodzic. And he could potentially be isolated and beaten for pace at times. Good strength from Diao to hold off the Augsburg attacker. Matheus Cunha turns and shoots and puts it just wide. I think he was offside anyway, and he was. Not by too much, just by his upper body. That was a really, really good attempt by Matheus Cunha. Almost squeezed that in from a very narrow angle. Diao pressing high, almost takes the ball away, but not quite. Lewis Ferguson tracking back now and doing a good job defensively. James Garner's been pushed out of the side a little bit in centre midfield with the additions of Anton Stack and Scott McTominay. But he will continue to play for us in a bit of a rotation kind of squad role. And he does have the ball at his feet now, and he can find Nathan Patterson on the right-hand side. Patterson just slips it nicely on the volley in front of Diao. And can he beat his man for pace? Yes, he can. Cuts inside. Can he get a shot away? Yes, he can. Can't beat the goalkeeper, though. Another good save. This time a little more difficult for the Augsburg goalkeeper. James Garner this time finds Maxim de Kuyper, who's going to have a shot from range as well. This time doesn't test the goalkeeper. It did just open up in front of de Kuyper there, though. And I don't hate him taking the shot on at all. Execution was poor, but I don't mind the attempt whatsoever. 20 yards from goal if the defence backs off and the space opens up for you a little bit. You've got to be ready and willing to let fly. And that's exactly what Maxim de Kuyper did. 1 minute of added time, almost elapsed. Let's try and create one last opportunity. Nathan Patterson couldn't release the ball quickly enough. Hassan Diao caught offside, but we will go into the half-time break with a 1-0 lead in our first Europa League group stage game. Decent enough performance in the first half. Nothing spectacular, but we did what we needed to do, especially against 10 men. We just kept the ball, moved it around, got our 1-goal lead, and we'll look to do the same in the second half. So back out for the second half here at Goodison Park. And we have a job to do in this second period, and that is see this game out to, at the very least, a 1-0 win. We just need to avoid conceding. If we score more goals, great. But against 10 men at home, we just need to focus on keeping a clean sheet and coming away with 3 points to get ourselves off to the best possible start in the Europa League. A couple of fortunate bounces for Augsburg early, though. Set Tete away on the right-hand side. Maxim de Kuyper tasked with stopping the cross, and he does. But he can't stop the ball going out for an Augsburg throw-in. They're going to make a second substitution here early in the second half, as Fernandez comes off, and it's Nicholas Dorsch to come on. So only one opportunity to make substitutions remaining for Augsburg. Again, Maxim de Kuyper stops the cross, and that forces the ball back towards the Augsburg back line. And it's a really loose pass, and Reece Nelson can't quite set James Garner away. Just needed a touch less on that pass just to drop it into the path of James Garner. But instead Augsburg recover, and they've had positive first 5 minutes here in the second half. They've used the ball much better already than they used it in the first half. And Toure just forces the ball back and allows Nelson to get in position. And it's going to be an Everton free kick in a nice safe area for us. So we'll just take it short and get our feet on the ball for the first time really in this second half. Nathan Patterson. Hassan Diao is onside this time, and I'm certain of it. I'm certain he was onside. I was looking across the line there. Oh. It's his big toe. You cannot be offside by a big toe. I was certain he was onside, and he clearly was. I really hate the disappearance of level. This idea of being level with the last defender and the attacker getting the benefit of the doubt. The day that went out of football took a turn for the worse. Reece Nelson back post. Can we find him? Yes, we can. What a save. What an unbelievable save by the Augsburg goalkeeper. And they are somehow still in this game when really they should be out of it. Unbelievable save. Just threw a left hand up. And I don't think he really knew too much about it. But just threw his left hand up, and Reece Nelson obliged by heading the ball straight against it. We should be 2-0 up in this game, and it should be pretty much out of sight. That's going to be a handball. And it is. So Augsburg make their final change of the game. Not sure who's come off and who's come on this occasion. But that is 3 changes. Beale is the man to come off. And Magno, I think, was the player to come on. And I don't believe Augsburg are going to be able to make another change. They have used their 3 opportunities, but they haven't used 5 substitutions. So I'm not 100% sure that EA will have that coded correctly. They may well allow Augsburg another substitution or 2 before this game is done. And Nathan Patterson's just going to hold on to the ball. Couple of runs ahead of him, but nothing too secure in terms of a pass to find. Same for Maxim de Kuyper. And there's Toure. Toure's looked decent at centre-back for us today. I do want him to play on that left-hand side because he is left-footed. And he's our only left-footed centre-back. But he is really more suited to that central role. But we do already have Anderson and Tarkowski who can pretty much only play that central role. So I'm not really sure what to do there. Perhaps we just try and get Toure on some kind of training plan that will allow him to become a little bit more mobile. He is still, 22 years old, I believe. So he could still develop athletically. I'm not sure how much more mobile somebody who's 6'9" and 216 could become, though. Sandial cuts inside. Can he get a shot away with his left foot? Yes, he can, but it's blocked. Arno Ahmedhodzic just lays it into the path of de Kuyper. And there's James Garner. Big switch of players on if he can find Patterson, which he can. Laid in front of Hassan Diao. Again manages to cut inside, and almost for a second time. That second defender saw the first get beat, though. And he managed to adjust his body position enough to prevent Diao from beating him for a second time. And I think as we approach the 70-minute mark here in the game, we will likely make a change or 2 when the ball goes out of play. Intercepted by James Garner, and Reece Nelson could be away. He's got 1 defender to run at. And he's managed to find Lewis Ferguson incredibly well. Just lays it off for Nathan Patterson. Can he beat his man? No, he can't. Good defender by the Augsburg left back. Ahmedhodzic wins the header, though. Can't quite find Cunha. And Reece Nelson will just drop back into a more defensive position to delay this counter-attack, which Maxim de Kuyper can't quite manage to halt in its tracks. And Augsburg with a chance to cross. They take that chance to cross, and it's a bit of a save for the cameras there from Jordan Pickford. It looks more comfortable, but he does parry away for an Augsburg corner, and a chance for Graham Potter to make a change or 2. So 2 changes for Graham Potter. Gerard Deulofeu coming on for Cunha, and Anton Stack coming on for James Garner. Deulofeu has looked really, really good in his first couple of games back in Everton Blue, as Maxim de Kuyper heads clear at the near post. Scored against Manchester City, Deulofeu, but he's just looked dangerous whenever he's been on the pitch, really. Even when he hasn't managed to score or assist, he's just created problems for opposition defences. And our defence has a problem here as Augsburg are into the box, parried away by Jordan Pickford at the near post. And Augsburg are searching for an equaliser in this game. With about 20 minutes left to go, stoppage time included. As we said, our first and foremost priority is keeping a clean sheet here. But it is going to be another Augsburg corner. Bit of confusion in the box, but Reiss Nelson manages to head away at the near post this time, and he might be the first for the rebound. He is. But Augsburg do enough to win the ball back before Reiss Nelson can really break. And Augsburg into our box once more, and it's a dangerous opportunity, and it's finished clinically by the Augsburg striker. And it is level here at Goodison Park. It's Alcaraz. Really nice ball slipped through in behind by the substitute. And it's another excellent finish into the top corner away from Jordan Pickford. And rather than step down into our defensive game plan, we're actually going to step up into our attacking game plan for these last 15 minutes or so. As Reiss Nelson looks for an option. Nathan Patterson is the only one he can find on the right-hand side. Hassan Diao lays it in front of Patterson once more. Just tries to pull it back to De La Feu, who puts it wide. Just poked at it with his right foot. Looking to go back the way it came. And I think the goalkeeper would have been bamboozled. But it goes just wide. And this is exactly what I was talking about. De La Feu just looks dangerous. He's always in a position to cause trouble for the defence. But he wasn't quite able to make it count there. And if we don't manage to come away with all 3 points here, I think we should feel incredibly disappointed. We do still have time to win the game here. Nathan Patterson driving down the right-hand side to try and make that happen. Hassan Diao can't cut inside this time. It's an excellent challenge by the Augsburg midfielder. And Augsburg again could be away. Nathan Patterson does a good job of delaying the attack. And he does so again. He is beaten this time though, and Ben Godfrey is going to have to come across to deal with it. Can't quite manage to do so. Ahmed Hodzic clears though into the path of Anton Stack. And there's Patterson. Stack once more. Pass a little bit behind him, but Stack strong enough to hold off the challenge of the Augsburg defender. Nathan Patterson outside him once more with an opportunity to cross, but no space to do so. No, we just needed that in front of Stack. I was just trying to lay the ball in front of Stack to lay it off for Ferguson and shoot from the edge of the box. And the pass was right between the two of them. Nathan Patterson heads clear. Lewis Ferguson once more. Oh, just about manages to keep hold of the ball. Hassan Diao tries to go outside this time, but again can't beat his man. I think he's tiring a little, Hassan Diao, as we approach the last 5 minutes of the game. And it looks like we're going to come away with just a point from this game. And really, we should be coming away with all 3. And we just haven't quite created enough opportunities, considering we've been playing against 10 men for the vast majority of the game. And we need to win the ball back here from Augsburg at the very least. Can't do so. They're just holding the ball for these last 5 minutes. Finally, we forced them into a mistake. Anton Stack, Hassan Diao, Nathan Patterson again. Heavy touch, just about manages to keep it in play. And Hassan Diao just about manages to wriggle away from his man. Maxim de Kuyper on the left-hand side. Not too much on ahead of him. Reiss Nelson is there, though. Whips it into the box, but there's nobody there. Nobody making a run into the box for that cross. Absolutely no one. And there's 3 minutes of added time, but they have already almost elapsed. And De La Feu almost stole that away. And Augsburg are just going to be able to see the game out here. We're in our ultra-attacking game plan now. Constant press. And Nathan Patterson just about manages to win the ball, but can't lay it into the feet of Hassan Diao. And Augsburg are going to have the last opportunity of the game. Cleared by Toure. 3 minutes have gone. The referee blows his final whistle and it's a 1-1 draw. Really shouldn't be. But Augsburg could come away with a point with 10 men. Simply not good enough. We should have won that game. That should be all 3 points. But we just didn't use the ball well enough. We didn't play as well in the second half as we did in the first. We didn't move the ball anywhere quickly enough, anywhere clinically enough. Let's check out the match facts. Because we allowed Augsburg more possession and more passes, far more passes attempted. And that's unforgivable when they have 1 man fewer. We did have more shots than Augsburg, but if we could have just kept possession and kept the ball in the second half, we probably would have had the win. And Copenhagen did win their opening game of the group stage, so they take an early lead here in the Europa League. And we only have 1 game remaining to try and avoid going winless in episode 2 here in season 3. Now that we have kicked off our European campaign, we have got several games in quick succession, and Graham Potter has been forced to rotate the side for that reason. Joachim Andersen comes back into the back 5, as does Noah Mbamba. James Garner maintains his place in midfield, but Anton Stack returns. Jack Harrison makes his first start of the season alongside Hassan Diao, and Gerard De La Feu will start up front again here today. And this was the kind of performance that we've been threatening to have all episode after an early chance from Crystal Palace, which they scuffed wide. We absolutely dominated the game. Hassan Diao was a menace down the right-hand side. He pulled the ball back early for Anton Stack to shoot from the edge of the box, but he, like the Crystal Palace player, did put his shot wide. But it wasn't long before we did have the lead. Anton Stack returning the favour to Hassan Diao, and Hassan Diao making no mistake with his finish. A right-footed shot across the goalkeeper, and less than half an hour into the game, we did make our pressure pay and took the lead. Hassan Diao then had a second just before half-time, his initial shot being parried away by the goalkeeper, but the Crystal Palace defenders were all stood on their toes, and Hassan Diao headed the rebound in past the helpless goalkeeper to make it 2, before Gerard De La Feu made it 3-0 just before half-time. Nathan Patterson laid a beautiful cross into the path of De La Feu, who'd made a run in between the 2 Crystal Palace centre-backs. He took it down on his chest with 1 touch and fired a low shot away from the goalkeeper with his second. And it was much the same after the break. De La Feu continued to look dangerous. Dean Henderson making a good save this time, but he could do nothing about this header. Finally, we score a goal from a corner in the episode, and it was De La Feu, not the man you would put your money on scoring a header if you were to put it on anyone, but he did rise the highest. He did turn his header towards goal, and it entered. Luca Waldschmidt even got in on the fun. He beat his last man with a nice little move into the Crystal Palace box and finished left-footed past Dean Henderson for a 5th. And Scott McTominay even had a chance to make it 6 3 minutes from time, but he pulled his right-footed shot wide. So that's exactly the way that we needed to end the episode. Some disappointing results in the games previous, but 5-0 win in the Premier League does change our perspective somewhat, because if we take a look at the month now, even though we do only have the 1 win, it was an absolutely convincing victory. Our performance against West Ham was equally convincing. It was just unfortunate that we didn't manage to come away with a result in that game. Losing 3-1 to Manchester City is a perfectly respectable scoreline considering the talent they have throughout their squad. And a draw in the Europa League is not the worst way to kick it off. We do only find ourselves in a modest 13th place in the Premier League with 2 wins from 6 games and just a +1 goal difference, but it is early days. And we've got an action-packed month coming up in October. 6 games to get to, so we'll split it into 2 episodes of 3 games. So next time we will be taking on Leeds in the Carabao Cup. We've got a home fixture against Arsenal in the Premier League, and we will travel away in the Europa League. So look forward to that in the next episode. I hope to see you there. Take it easy.